call to order the meeting of the Chautauqua County Legislature on February 28th, 2024. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony. Here. Mr. Bankowski. Here. Mr. Buchanan. Here. Mrs. Gustafson. Here. Mr. Harmon.
Here.
Mr. Heiser.
Here.
Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Mr. Landy.
Here.
Mr. Larson.
Here.
Mr. Nelson.
Here.
Mr. Nebel.
Here.
Ms. Parker.
Here.
Mr. Pavlock.
Here.
Mr. Penhallow.
Here.
Mr. Proctor.
Here.
Mr. Scudder.
Here.
Ms. Vanstrom.
Here.
Mr. Wilfong.
Here.
Chairman Shagnon.
Here.
There are 19 members present and no members absent. There's quorum.
And we will now have the prayer and pledge of allegiance by Legislator Penhallow.
Dear God, thank you for the faithful servants you have brought together to fulfill your purpose. You have given us willing hearts and a desire to proclaim the name of Jesus through word and deed. We ask you to give us wisdom, patience, and guidance as we plan for our future. As we begin our planning and leadership, help us first seek you and your will. Help us protect one another and work together. We give you the glory for everything that is accomplished. God bless our first responders, our veterans, and those who protect our country.
Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next on our agenda is approval of the minutes for the January 2nd, 2024 organizational meeting. We have a motion to approve by Legislator Bankowski and a second by Legislator Wilfong. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? They're approved. And now for approval of the minutes of the regular legislature meeting in January on January 24th. Motion by Legislator Bankowski, second by Legislator Vanstrom. Any discussion on the motion to approve those minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? They are approved. Now, for our first privilege of the floor. Members of the public may comment on any subject relating to any local law, resolution, or motion appearing on tonight's agenda. Individual comments are limited to 3 minutes, and comments representing a group shall be limited to 5 minutes. Anyone wishing to address the first privilege of the floor? Emily?
Good evening. I'm Emily Reynolds from Cornell Cooperative Extension. I live in Sherman, New York. I'll be brief because I'm just going to introduce you to Josie Allen. She is our 4-H educator, and she has some information to share with you about the Agricultural Literacy Week that you have a motion on the floor about today.
Hi, my name is Josie Allen. I'm from Sherman, New York, and as she said, I'm the 4-H development educator, and this year we are doing the Ag Literacy Week. We are looking for volunteers to read to schools in the county for scheduled times. The book this year is called I Love Strawberries. It's a book about a young girl that really likes strawberries and wants to show her parents that she can grow the fruit. I think it's a really nice book that connects kids with agriculture. They don't have to be directly living on a farm to be involved in agriculture. We are currently looking for readers as well as donations. All these books get donated to the school library, and any other funds that are collected are used to do a small activity with the kids. The Agricultural Literacy Week this year is March 18th through the 22nd.
So if anybody's interested in being a reader, please reach out to us at Cooperative Extension, and we appreciate your support on the motion that you have in front of you declaring it as Ag Literacy Week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the first privilege of the floor?
My name is Doug Champ. I live at 225 Bowen Street in Jamestown. I've also been a resident of this county for going on close to 80 years. That's 8 decades. And I've talked many times in front of the legislature on a variety of issues over the years. And tonight I'm addressing actually some type of mathematical interpretation on the resolutions in front for salary raises. And I'll read this. In 2024, our county legislature will be making $9,000 a year plus add-ons for specific titles. If this resolution tonight as presented and adopted, these legislative salaries will increase to $14,732, a 61% increase. There are 12 monthly county legislative meetings a year. That amount relates to $750 a meeting per legislator. If these meetings last for 2 hours each, that relates to $375 an hour. If each legislator attends 12 additional monthly meetings a year, like a committee meeting, for 2 hours each, that accumulated hourly rate goes down to $187.50 an hour. If an additional 12 meetings per year are attended at an hour each, the hourly rate goes down to $150 an hour. Now, I do not know how many of non-political hours you spend doing your job that add to these accumulative hours. Phone calls, emails, texting, letter writing, etc. Only you know if you keep such an accountable log. Comparison tonight to the county exec salary of $111,400 or $9,283 a month or $2,142 a week. If the county executive works 40 hours a week, he would earn $53.55 an hour. If he works 50 hours a week, he would be making $42.84 an hour. 60 hours a week, he would be making $35.70 an hour. You see where I'm going with this? In conclusion, at an increase of $5,732, a salary increase for 19 county legislators equates to $108,000 and $908 a year. If that amount stays constant for the next 10 terms after 2026, it will cost the county taxpayers $2,178,160. That's the facts of the math. So
Thank you. You've exceeded your 3 minutes.
I always do. That's why I wish you would amend it to make it 5 minutes.
Thank you.
I'll be back for the second privilege on a different matter.
Anyone else wishing to address the first privilege of the floor? Seeing no one, I will close the first privilege of the floor. Olivia, to you.
There are no veto messages from County Executive Wendell from the January 2nd, 2024 meeting or the January 24th, 2024 meeting. Our office has received the 5 communications as listed on the agenda. If you would like a copy of any of these items, please let our office know. Okay. Local Law Introductory 3-24. A local law amending Local Law 13-22, providing for a management salary plan for county officers and employees regarding coroner supervisor for the Department of Health.
Are there any comments, any questions on Local Law Introductory 3-24? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony.
Yes.
Mr. Bankowski.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan.
Yes.
Mrs. Gustafson. Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
Mr. Heiser.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson. Mr. Landy.
Yes.
Mr. Larson.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
Mr. Nebel.
Yes.
Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Mr. Pavlak.
Yes.
Mr. Penhallow.
Yes.
Mr. Proctor.
Yes.
Mr. Scudder.
Yes.
Ms. Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong.
Yes.
Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
There are 19 yes votes. The local law is adopted. Local Law Introductory 4-24, a local law amending Local Law 13-22, providing for a management salary plan for county officers and employees regarding law graduate for the Chautauqua County Law Departments.
Are there any comments or any discussion on Local Law Introductory 4-24? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony.
Yes.
Mr. Benkowski.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Gustafson. Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
Mr. Heiser.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Landy.
Yes.
Mr. Larson.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
Mr. Nebel.
Yes.
Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Mr. Pavlak.
Yes.
Mr. Penhallow.
Yes.
Mr. Proctor.
Yes.
Mr. Scudder. Miss Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong.
Yes.
Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
There are 19 yes votes. The local law is adopted. Local Law Introductory 5-24. A local law amending Local Law 7-07, Real Property Tax Law, Section 459-C, Persons with Disabilities and Limited Incomes, Real Property Tax Exemption.
Are there any questions or any comments on Local Law Introductory 5-24? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony.
Yes.
Mr. Benkowski.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Gustafson. Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
Mr. Heiser.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Landy.
Yes.
Mr. Larson.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
Mr. Nebel.
Yes.
Ms. Parker. Mr. Pavlak.
Yes.
Mr. Penhallow.
Yes.
Mr. Proctor.
Yes.
Mr. Scudder.
Yes.
Ms. Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong.
Yes.
Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
There are 19 yes votes. The local law is adopted. Local Law Introductory 6-24. A local law amending Local Law 13-22, providing for a management salary plan for county officers and employees regarding county historian.
Are there any comments or any questions on Local Law Introductory 6-24? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony. Mr. Benkowski.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Gustafson. Mr. Harmon. Mr. Heiser.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Landy.
Yes.
Mr. Larson.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
Mr. Nebel.
Yes.
Ms. Parker. Mr. Pavlak.
Yes.
Mr. Penhallow.
Yes.
Mr. Proctor.
Yes.
Mr. Scudder. Ms. Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong.
Yes.
Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
There are 19 yes votes. The local law is adopted. Local Law Introductory 7-24. A local law amending the Chautauqua County Charter, amending Section 4.05.
Are there any questions or any comments on Local Law Introductory 7-24? Legislator Larson.
Mr. Chairman, I confess that before taking office in January, I had no idea that for 2018, the charter was amended to increase salaries for the executive, the sheriff, and the clerk, and for the first time in county history, add an automatic annual cost of living adjustment. Since these offices have automatic annual increases, so that for example, the executive salary was set in the charter at $92,500, and now it's I think $115,000 just these few years later. I see no need any longer for a salary review commission. If for some reason the duties of the exec, or the duties of the clerk, or the duties of the sheriff were expanded someday, if the county bought back the county home, for example, and the executive was suddenly responsible for that big enterprise again, then a salary review commission could be needed to decide if there should be a pay increase for added duties. If the sheriff someday takes over one of the municipal police forces, I could see a salary review commission saying that for those added duties, there ought to be an increase. But short of that, Mr. Chairman, with the automatic cost of living increases, I see no need for a salary commission mandate, period. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions on local law introductory 7-24? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony. Mr. Bankowski.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Gustafson. Mr. Harmon. Mr. Heiser. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Landy. Mr. Larson. Mr. Nelson. Mr. Neville. Ms. Parker. Mr. Pavlak. Mr. Penhallow. Mr. Proctor. Mr. Scudder. Ms. Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong. Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
There are 17 yes votes and 2 no votes. The local law is adopted. Local Law Introductory 8-24, a local law amending the Chautauqua County Charter, amending Section 4.06.
Are there any questions, any discussion on local law introductory 8-24? Legislator Larson.
Mr. Chairman, since the short title there doesn't explain to the audience or to the press what we're talking about, Section 4.06 of the Charter right now is the 2018 provision that set the county executive salary at $92,500 as of January 1, 2018. The clerk as of January 1, 2018 of $55,500. And the sheriff, because his election is a different cycle, his salary was set as of January 1, 2019 as $85,000. Those salaries became the base for the applying the annual cost of the Consumer Price Index cost of living adjustment for each of those 3 elected people. If we delete those starting points, we delete the initial calculation, the base for calculating the annual cost of living adjustments. It's no secret, I will not be voting for any additional increases for the executive, sheriff, or clerk, because this legislature, just those few years ago, said that as of 2018, $92,500 was a fair compensation for executive and so forth. And then adding the first ever in this county's history automatic cost of living adjustments every year, that should be adequate. So I do not favor eliminating this section. What this local law would do is delete the base amounts that some of you voted for just those few years ago, and instead set off on increases on top of the Consumer Price Index for these offices, starting after their elections, their next election cycle. So I hope I've made my thought clear. I think it's important for history to not delete from the charter what this legislature thought was fair compensation for the exec, the sheriff, and the clerk in 2018 and 2019, and that explains how 92,500 just those few years ago has become 115,000 this year. By deleting the initial base amounts that you all agreed to, the compensation starting in 2026 makes no sense to anybody trying to read our charter. So for that reason, I'll be opposing deleting what you all did in the charter for 2018. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Comments, questions, discussion on local law introductory 8-24? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony.
Yes.
Mr. Bankowski.
No.
Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Gustafson. Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
Mr. Heiser.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Landy.
Yes.
Mr. Larson.
No.
Mr. Nelson.
No.
Mr. Nebel.
Yes.
Ms. Parker. Mr. Pavlak.
Yes.
Mr. Penhallow.
Yes.
Mr. Proctor.
Yes.
Mr. Scudder. Ms. Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong.
Yes.
Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
There are 14 yes votes and 5 no votes. The local law is adopted.
Mr. Chairman, a point of information to the county attorney. Now that that whole section's been deleted, if this legislature fails to act on the next local laws, how does the budget director, the finance director, the human relations department, how do they determine what the salary is for these 3 elected officials in the next few years?
So that'd be something that we'd work on with HR, Human Resources, and the budget director. They have the information. They have the information of what's currently being made. That section in the charter, which is outdated language, that's no longer the base salary. So to have that continue to be in there causes, I think, more confusion than actually removing it for the budget director. So
Well, with all due respect, since these salaries go up every year, a figure in the charter is always going to be outdated within a year.
correct, that's why it's being removed. I'll leave
But
it-
the language of the local laws that are proposed tonight, you read them, they do not tell you what the salary is going to be in 2026, correct?
Correct. The county does have systems and in place that calculate and maintain knowledge of what the current salaries of people being paid. Payroll obviously has to pay out salaries, and so based on information, they would apply the new CPI as appropriately and would pay accordingly.
I'm really not trying to put you on the spot, but I don't think this is a well-conceived plan this evening. One has always been able to look at a law, Mr. Chairman, and see what this body had set the salary of these elected officials to be. Right now, we've eliminated the only reference as to what the salaries of these elected officials is. I know I lost the vote, but the point remains, the only reason we can tell what the executive makes in 2024, that all 3 of these people got a raise last month, the only way we know what it is, we had the starting amount in the charter, and then it said they get CPI every year. So it's a simple calculation. Now that we've deleted the amount, the base amount in the charter, I don't know how anyone would research county law and figure out what the salary of these 3 electeds is as a matter of law.
Well,
Thank you.
Since I believe at least the 1960s, we do maintain journals of proceedings, and so
Yes.
this information would maintain in those journals that are available at, actually, the clerk's office is now digitizing all those journals of proceedings to make them easier to research.
Well, perhaps last comment, Mr. Chairman, or question. We don't need the history. We just needed what this legislature did in 2018. That answers the question of what they made and the CPI applied every year. It's a simple thing. It is now not a simple matter under the proposed laws. Thank you.
Thank you. Carry on.
Local law introductory 9-24, establishing salary level for Chautauqua County Executive.
Are there any comments, any questions, any discussion on local law introductory 9-24? Legislator Parker.
Sorry, I have to get my numbers here. I wanted to first thank the Salary Commission and also the HR Director for all the work that they put into figuring out the the raises, and I think they did a ton of, an extraordinary amount of work, and I appreciate that. But I wanted to reiterate what Legislator Larson said about the CPI or the COLA increases since 2018. Since 2020, the increase has been close to 20, if not more, % cost of living increases. And I think this will continue to, as it is part of the charter, will continue to supply good raises for, meaningful raises for the executive, for the clerk, and for the sheriff, and I am not going to be voting for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Legislator Wilfong.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to thank the many concerned citizens that have reached out to me with some questions and concerns regarding the findings of the Chautauqua County Salary Commission. The commission's task was to look into elected officials' pay scales and make recommendations on them. I believe that we need to take a look at all the proposed recommendations and make some common sense adjustments to them. The Republican caucus holds the supermajority voting advantage on the floor and will be leading the negotiations on these issues. The Republican caucus is made up of business owners, bankers, retirees, factory workers, which represent a large group of blue-collar workers that reflect a cross-section of our county. I can assure you, this has brought forth a lively conversation in our caucus. And just because we all belong to one political party does not mean we all agree on the complex issue before us. I hope that all Chautauqua County residents have reached out to their county legislator to express their opinion and propose changes to county government. I'd like to clarify one issue that has been misrepresented in the Post-Journal many times. Any said we will not be voting ourselves a pay increase. It will take place during the next election cycle. I believe we also need to look into that. The CPI is very important, I think, for all of these positions, because then we won't find ourselves in the same problem that we're having where the legislatures themselves haven't had pay raises in 20 years. So it's going to be interesting to see how these few votes go. And I'll tell you, there's probably going to be some fireworks, so good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Legislator Nebel.
Mr. Chairman, if this goes through, the county executive salary will be approximately $131,000 per year. Keep in mind the county executive has oversight of 1,500 county employees in a budget of $300 million for the county. So those things considered, I don't think this salary increase is exorbitant. I think it's warranted, and I will be supporting it this evening.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Legislator Larson.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. One good thing, at least for me, that came out of the Salary Commission's analysis was those volunteers, and we commend them. Believe it or not, I was asked and did serve on a salary review commission when I was in exile. And our recommendation, which was, as I recall, the committee was led by the county Republican chairman at the time. our recommendations came to the legislature, and the legislature did nothing with them. Now, I didn't feel offended that I had spent time trying to come up with pay raises, but of course that was an era where none of these folks got automatic cost of living increases. I appreciate the work of the commission, and for me, when they listed what they considered to be comparable counties to Chautauqua, that led me to do some research on were they comparable to us. Sadly, the U.S. Census Bureau shows the 9 counties that the commission saw as comparable to Chautauqua. The median household income average for those 9 counties was $76,000 for households in those 9 counties. Our median household income, sadly, $55,000, $21,000 less median household income than the average of the 9 allegedly comparable counties. And I have thought to myself in this week leading up to tonight's decision, what would Chautauqua County look like if the typical household suddenly had $21,000 more a year here in Chautauqua County, so we'd be the average of those 9 other counties? I think we'd have a much different place to live. Might even still have a Cadillac dealer in Jamestown. Then I looked at the Census Bureau again on what's the poverty rate. We don't talk about poverty rate much, I don't myself, but the Census Bureau keeps track of it. The 9 comparable counties, according to the Salary Commission, their average poverty rate is 12.9%. Ours is 17.6%. So our economic circumstance, sadly, is way below the 9 comparable counties. And what does that have to do with salaries? Well, the ability of the people, the residents of this county to pay is much, much less, sadly, than those other 9 comparable counties. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, discussion on the local law? Legislator Pavlak.
Yes, in regards to the section 406, at the time I was in favor and voted in favor of those numbers because it was a step in the right direction. I wasn't completely satisfied, but I was satisfied at the time that we were moving in the right direction. So I'm thankful today that we were able to have established a commission. I've always been an advocate for that over the last few years. It's just taken a few years to be able to get that to come to fruition. We had a thing called a pandemic that kind of turntabled that a little bit, but I'm glad that we were able to do it. Then the commission met, and now I'm even more glad that the recommendations that they put forward, because it does satisfy what I thought those salaries should have been. And so I'll be in support of this particular introductory that we're discussing right now.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion on local law introductory 9-24? Legislator Parker.
I just wanted to point out something that when we were talking about the comparison of the 9 counties, the 9 comparable counties, I had the opportunity to do some research on some other research, and one of the things that I thought was really kind of remarkable about Chautauqua County is that, as we've talked before, we have a reduction of negative 7.58% of our population. And if you look at Rensselaer County, which was one of the comparison county, they have a reduction in their population of 0.79. Putnam County was another one, and they had a reduction in since 2010, 1.87%. And I think what I wanted to say, which is a little different, is that we really need to be looking at what is different about Chautauqua County when we're making decisions and looking at the ways forward. And I think there are so many different ways of looking at the differences. And it's pretty remarkable to look at an almost 8% reduction in population, and then versus the comparison counties with less than 2%, or in some cases have gained population. So those are pretty significant numbers too. Thank you.
Thank you. Legislator Penhallow.
Mr. Chair, perhaps we are looking this under a microscope for just Chautauqua County versus New York State. And to make a point to Mrs. Parker, I think that's the issue that nobody's been talking about here, is what New York State has done to Chautauqua County in the exodus of our population. I think that's one of the key things. We can cherry pick here all day long on salaries. Do we question salaries of our law enforcement? Not really. Do we question salary increases for our school teachers and our community leaders and our school leaders? We really don't. So I will be voting in favor of the increase for the county executive based on, if I run a $300 million a year company, am I going to do it for $115,000 a year? And don't forget, our county executive, our clerk, our sheriff, they eat here in Chautauqua County. They buy groceries here in Chautauqua County. We've seen how COVID has exasperated all costs in everything that we do. Services, cost, insurance. That's not a county issue. I believe this is more of a larger state issue than it is a county issue. And so I don't speak that often, but to sit here and to nitpick and put on a microscope our leadership, we want to hire the best superintendents. We want the best men or women qualified to apply to run an election, to be a sheriff. We want the best attorneys in Chautauqua County. I know I do. I want to hire the best doctors. I want those doctors working on my kids, my parents, my siblings. And those are just some of the points. I understand the struggles that each of us face, our residents, especially in my districts. So I think that those are just important points. So thank you.
Thank you. Legislator Vanstrom.
Good evening, Chairman. Thank you. I just want to say I have been in government many years, many years in many capacities, and I can tell you that the role of county executive in this county is multifaceted. You have to become a quasi-expert in so many fields, including finance. There is no way anybody could pretend it is a 9-to-5 job. You're at the mercy of our taxpayers 24/7. When there's a crisis, your toes are held to the proverbial fire. So there's no way that anyone could say that it doesn't take a lot of energy and a lot of expertise and a lot of planning and a lot of communication with all of the department heads on top of other educational endeavors to do the very best job for our community here. So I want to thank the Salary Review Commission for their diligent work, their sensible analysis, and their generous donation of time and attendance to these issues, because I wouldn't have volunteered if I could. No, I'm not lying about that. Terry might have, but not me. No. Yeah. So, I mean, I do give a lot of credit to that position that we're discussing right now. But if anybody had a peek behind the curtain, they'd realize that it is a very, very in-depth job to perform. So, and thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions, discussion on local law introductory 9-24? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony. Yes. Mr. Bankowski. No. Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Gustafson. Yes. Mr. Harmon. Yes. Mr. Heiser.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Landy.
Yes.
Mr. Larson.
No.
Mr. Nelson?
No.
Mr. Nebel?
Yes.
Ms. Parker?
No.
Mr. Pavlak?
Yes.
Mr. Penhallow?
Yes.
Mr. Proctor?
Yes.
Mr. Scudder? I'm sorry, what was that? Okay, sorry. Ms. Vanstrom? Mr. Wilfong?
No.
Okay, Chairman Shagnon?
Yes.
Okay, there are 13 yes votes and 6 no votes. The local law is adopted. Local Law Introductory 10-24, establishing salary level for Chautauqua County Clerk.
Are there any comments or any discussion on local law introductory 10-24? Legislator Larson.
Just so whatever the audience is clear, all three of these elected officials are getting raises, regardless of action on these local laws. They all got raises last month based on the Consumer Price Index. Nobody, including this legislator, has brought a local law to repeal the charter provision for Consumer Price Index, so that nobody in the audience is confused. No matter what happens with these local laws, the sheriff, the executive, and the county clerk get automatic raises every year. So it's not like the old days. I think Mark, well, I should have researched it, but I believe County Executive Mark Thomas was stuck. I think his salary was $85,000 for 8 years. I think Greg Edwards served 7 of his 8 years, I believe, at $85,000. In the old days, we did have public elected officials who were literally stuck at the same pay for 10, 15 years, just like, has anyone researched, has the legislators been frozen for 22 years? Anybody know for sure? Anybody document? We know it's at least 20. 20 with no increase. These three elected officials, once again, everybody understands they're already getting automatic cost of living increases every year. So they're not frozen like the old days for a county executive or a clerk or a sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you. Legislator Johnson.
Just in response to that, please. So I grew up in some countries that has pretty high inflation. So when you don't add CPI to a salary every year, the amount of stuff you can buy with that salary goes down. Your real compensation goes down. It's not stuck. So if you want to keep people whole, you have to use CPI or some metric to it. And so that was just the mathematical point I wanted to make. Otherwise, everybody's going backwards.
Thank you. Legislator Wilfong.
Well, I'm sure most people did notice that I did vote no for the county executive's increase. I do believe that the county clerk's position is extremely underpaid, and I will be voting in favor of that. But I just wanted to speak to you that in the when I first spoke this evening, I said that not everybody's getting along when it comes to the pay increases, and you're starting to see that. And I think it's important that each one of us actually say what they believe the way county government should go. And I'm very proud of the people who stood up to say what they wanted to say. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion on local law introductory 10-24? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony?
Yes.
Mr. Bankowski?
No.
Mr. Buchanan?
No.
Mrs. Gustafson? Mr. Harmon?
Yes.
Mr. Heiser?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Landy?
Yes.
Mr. Larson?
No.
Mr. Nelson?
No.
Mr. Nebel?
Yes.
Ms. Parker? Mr. Pavlak?
Yes.
Mr. Penhallow?
Yes.
Mr. Proctor?
Yes.
Mr. Scudder?
Yes.
Ms. Vanstrom? Mr. Wilfong?
Yes.
Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
There are 14 yes votes and 5 no votes. The local law is adopted. Local Law Introductory 11-24, establishing salary level for Chautauqua County Sheriff.
Is there any discussion, any comments on local law introductory 11-24? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony.
Yes.
Mr. Bankowski.
No.
Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Gustafson. Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
Mr. Heiser.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Landy.
Yes.
Mr. Larson.
No.
Mr. Nelson.
No.
Mr. Nebel.
Yes.
Ms. Parker. Mr. Pavlak.
Yes.
Mr. Penhollow.
Yes.
Mr. Proctor.
Yes.
Mr. Scudder.
Yes.
Ms. Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong.
No.
Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
There are 13 yes votes and 6 no votes. The local law is adopted. Local Law Introductory 12-24, a local law amending Local Law 7-99, establishing salary levels for Chautauqua County legislators.
Are there any comments, any discussion on local law introductory 12-24? Legislator Larson.
Mr. Chairman, one of the things that I decided 20 or 30 years ago was even in politics and government to try to be as intellectually honest as possible. There's no reason that most of the 19 on this legislature now in 2024 have no personal knowledge of. In 1971 was the first election for a county legislature. The nature and responsibility of this body can be misunderstood. And Mr. Wilfong said something extremely profound. I think it was our organizational meeting. He said, we, the county legislature, we work with the county executive, we don't work for the county executive. With the election of 1971, the first county legislature, for 3 years, there was no executive. There was no county manager. The county legislature ran the county. The chairman of the legislature was as close to an executive figure as we had for 3 years. So the history of the county legislature is not an advisory body to a county executive, a reactive body all the time to whatever the county executive, whoever it is, proposes. Our origin is the central part of county government. The executive came after. So let's not shy away from letting the public know and try to prove it to them that this is a serious group of 19 and it is the central part of county government decision making. Secondly, to lump together, it's unfortunate in a way, tonight has all 4 of these local laws. For whatever reason, in 2018, the county legislature at that time gave a consumer price index annual automatic increase to the sheriff, the executive, and the clerk, and did not give a consumer price index to the $9,000 legislator salary. I don't know why, but they didn't. So, in historical fairness and intellectual honesty, 10 years ago, 12 and more, there were 25 legislators, each making $9,000. When the legislature shrunk itself to 19, it eliminated 6 legislators at $9,000 a year. It cut $54,000 just in gross pay. and did not raise the salary for the rest. Secondly, I believe under the crusade of Dr. Rudy Mueller as a county legislator, the county legislature got rid of health insurance for itself. There were a lot of self-employed people, farmers and others, over the years that being a county legislator meant that they could have county health insurance. County health, I didn't burden our finance people with what is county health insurance worth today to a single or a family, but it's a lot of money. This body voluntarily gave up health insurance, which has got to be worth more than $9,000 a year, and yet kept the pay at $9,000. So it's just not intellectually honest to lump the discussion of legislators' salaries with those of the exec, the clerk, and the sheriff, who had new higher base salaries set in that law of 2018 and have had automatic cost of living since. The $9,000 for this job, this responsibility, has been unchanged for over 20 years. The body shrunk itself, saved the taxpayers that $54,000 a year plus Social Security, Medicare, so on, and gave up health insurance. And what that would be today if even half of the 19 took advantage of health insurance like it was available in the old days, that'd be a lot of money. Gave all that up and the pay stayed the same. So just in fairness to the body, we shouldn't, there's no comparison between the three countywide electeds and this body. Thank you.
Thank you. Legislator Nelson.
Mr. Chairman, my simple answer is no thank you. I appreciate the efforts of the Salary Commission. However, no thank you. Now can we get on with talking about something else? Can we talk about how we're going to stop the population loss in the county, or how we're going to improve the economic future of the county, a county that ranks near the bottom of all the counties in the state? So let's not waste any more time on this and move on to more important things. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Legislator Bankowski.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to reiterate my thanks, and I think I speak for everyone here, of the Salary Commission who did all the research. Deb Mikowski in the back also spent a lot of time, hours, and to put together at least a proposal that we had some very good discussion on. I know it wasn't an easy task, Mr. Chairman, because you burdened me with it. When you said, can you go please find me 3 or 4 people to sit on this commission so it would be bipartisan? And it wasn't easy, by no means. I knocked on a lot of doors, called a lot of people, and a lot of people said, no thank you, don't have time, don't care. And the people that we did get, I thought they were upstanding people, both Democrats and Republicans, and I thought they did an admirable job. So I take my hat off to them. And I was in favor of the raises for the big three, as I refer to them as, but then I forgot about the CPI thing that's been added to their salary since 2018. And I was a legislator at that time, and I voted for it, just because it was hard to find people that want these jobs. They were making more money in the private sector than they do working in the public sector here. But I totally forgot about the CPI thing, and that really is what changed my mind on how I voted on those three, just because they all got raises this year. They got raises last year. And I understand, we're talking, comparing other counties and this and that or whatever. Fine, it is what it is, and I voted my conscience on those. But as far as the legislator goes, and none of us may not be here 2 years from now when this whole thing takes place. We might all get voted out, so be it, whatever the case may be. So we may not even get any benefit of the proposed legislative increase. I thought to myself, 20 years, I mean, minimum wage has gone up year after year, you know, everyone's got a little something. And I didn't feel that the $6,000, I thought that was too much. I would be more in line with a $3,000 raise than the $6,000 raise. Because 20 years, it's a long time without not getting anything. And who knows where it's gonna go in 2 years from now again. So that's my stance, and thank you.
Thank you. And Bob, thank you for your assistance with forming the Salary Review Commission. That not everyone understands how hard you worked and how much help you were in putting that together. So thank you. Legislator Parker.
Point of information, what is the actual increase for the legislators according to this local law?
Let's see.
Commissioner report that came out on December 5th. It's $5,732.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Jamie. Any other comments, discussion on local law introductory 12-24? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
If I wanted to make a motion to amend that amount, would I do that at this time?
Yes, you would.
Okay, I would like to make a motion that the legislative increase will be $3,000.
Okay, we have a motion to amend local law 12-24 to change the increased amount to $3,000 per year, which would raise the legislator salary from $9,000 to $12,000 per year.
Correct.
Okay, do we have a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
Second by legislator Nebel. Discussion on the motion to amend local law 12-24. Legislator Vanstrom.
I'm not going to split hairs. The Salary Review Commission came up with a recommendation. We could all come up with 10 different ideas and come back anytime and talk about them in this way or that way or some detailed way. The Salary Review Commission already looked at the whole picture and compromised on these numbers. So I'm not going to disrespect their bipartisan, unbiased, unwavering. They have nothing to gain by coming up with the results they came up with, as Mr. Beach eloquently expressed. Other places we're still under the current of what is fair and just in other counties. So I'm not going to play games with the numbers that a sanctioned group brought back to us. I think that's an insult, and I think they took a long time to come up with the numbers they came up with. They weren't fabricated, they didn't come out of thin air, and they were not emotional. So that's my sentiment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the motion to amend? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll on the motion to amend local law introductory 12-24?
Mr. Anthony.
No.
Mr. Bankowski. Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Gustafson. Mr. Harmon.
No.
Mr. Heiser.
No.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes. Oh, sorry, no.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Landy.
No.
Mr. Larson.
Yes.
Yes. Mr. Nelson.
No.
Mr. Nelson votes no. Okay. Mr. Nebel.
Yes.
Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Mr. Pavlak.
No.
Mr. Penhallow.
No.
Mr. Proctor.
No.
Mr. Scudder. Ms. Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong.
No.
Chairman Shagnon.
No.
Okay, there are 5 yes votes and 14 no votes. The motion to amend fails.
Okay, then we're back to local law introductory 12-24 as presented. I didn't believe we saw any further comments forthcoming. Are there any at this point? If not, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony. Yes. Mr. Bankowski.
No.
Mr. Buchanan. No. Mrs. Gustafson. Yes. Mr. Harmon.
Yes.
Mr. Heiser.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Landy.
Yes.
Mr. Larson.
No.
Mr. Nelson.
No.
Mr. Nebel.
Yes.
Miss Parker. No. Mr. Pavlak.
Yes.
Mr. Penhollow.
No.
Mr. Proctor.
Yes.
Mr. Scudder.
No.
Miss Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong.
Yes.
Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
Okay, there are 12 yes votes and 7 no votes. The local law is adopted. Local law introductory 13-24, a local law amending the Chautauqua County Charter, amending section 4.07.
Are there any comments, any discussion on local law introductory 13-24? Seeing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony.
Yes.
Mr. Bankowski.
Yes.
Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Gustafson. Mr. Harmon. Mr. Heiser. Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Landy.
Yes.
Mr. Larson.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
No.
Mr. Nebel.
Yes.
Ms. Parker. Mr. Pavlak.
Yes.
Mr. Penhollow.
Yes.
Mr. Proctor.
Yes.
Mr. Scudder.
No.
Miss Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong.
Yes.
Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
There are 17 yes votes and 2 no votes. The local law is adopted. Okay.
We now have on our agenda a proposal to renew and amend resolution number 310-23 to amend capital project accounts for the Jamestown Community College. Do I have a motion to renew this resolution? Legislator Wilfong, and second by Legislator Bankowski. Any discussion on the motion to renew resolution 310-23? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is renewed. Now, I would be looking for a motion to amend resolution 310-23. Legislator Bankowski, and a second by Legislator Wilfong. Discussion on the motion to amend resolution 310-23. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is renewed and amended. Now, discussion on the renewed and amended resolution. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the renewed and amended resolution, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? It is carried.
Okay. And that's amended to the version that was placed on their desks. Okay.
Thank you.
Resolutions. All right. 34-24. Confirm reappointments. Chautauqua County Fire Advisory Board.
Any comments or questions? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
35-24. Confirm appointments. Chautauqua County Board of Health.
Any comments, Discussion on the resolution. Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
36-24, confirm appointment Southern Tier West Regional Planning and Development Board.
Any comments? Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Legislator Bankowski.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to block resolutions 37-24 through 57-24.
Okay, we have a motion to block and a second by Legislator Wilfong. So the motion is to block resolutions 37-24 through 57-24. Is there any discussion on the motion to block? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? They are blocked.
37-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, South and Center Chautauqua Lake Sewer Districts. 38-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Portland, Pomfret, Dunkirk Sewer District. 39-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Environment, Landfill. 40-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Public Facilities, A Fund. 41-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Public Facilities, D Fund. 42-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, County Clerk. 43-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Unified Courts. 44-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Legislature. 45-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Health Insurance Fund. 46-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Energy Fund. 47-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Insurance Liability, CS Fund. 48-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Finance. 49-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Miscellaneous. 50-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Human Resources. 51-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, County Attorney. 52-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Probation. 53-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Office of the Sheriff. 54-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Emergency Services. 55-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Veterans Service Agency. 56-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Public Health. 57-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Department of Mental Hygiene and Social Services.
So are there any questions or comments on any of the blocked resolutions 37-24 through 57-24? Legislator Pavlik.
Chairman, my comment is really in association with all the year-end reconciliation resolutions here. I just want to comment, I applaud the work of the departments. Most of these year-end reconciliations are budget neutral, meaning they were able to find money within their budgets to offset the overages. Whenever you're counting at budget season, you want it to be correct, but sometimes things change. So, being able to do it within your account is good. It means that departments were fiscally responsible and were able to locate some savings. Sometimes it meant a vacancy, which isn't a good thing. you know, I want to promote that county is actively trying to hire in a lot of positions. And I would just assume that we fill those positions and these year-end reconciliations wouldn't be so budget neutral. It might help alleviate some of the workload that our current employees face. But nonetheless, I do appreciate the work of our staff to be as concise with their spending as possible so we can be budget neutral.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions on any of the blocked resolutions? Hearing none. All those in favor of resolutions 37-24 through 57-24, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The blocked resolutions are carried.
58-24, amend 2023 budget to increase funding for the District Attorney Office Expansion Project within the Chautauqua County American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA spending plan.
Any comments, questions on the resolution? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
59-24, amend 2023 budget for year-end reconciliations, Department of Planning and Development.
Any comments or questions on the resolution? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
60-24, amend spending plan in 2023 budget for Chautauqua County projects funded by the American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA.
Any comments or questions on the resolution? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
61-24, amend 2024 budget to implement the Women's Shelter Project within the Chautauqua County American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA spending plan.
Are there any comments or questions? Legislator Parker.
I just wanted to issue a statement of support for the ARPA committee allocating money for the Women's Shelter Project. That is a much-needed project with our increasing homelessness in Chautauqua County, and I think this is a really good use of our ARPA money. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions on the resolution? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
62-24, amend 2024 budget to implement Lake Erie sediment assessments.
Any questions, any comments on the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
63-24, amend 2024 budget to implement Walnut Creek stabilization.
Any comments, any questions on the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
64-24, amend 2024 budget to complete Chautauqua Lake Marina LLC project.
Any questions, any discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
65-24, modification of membership of Portland Pomfret Dunkirk Sewer District Board.
Are there any comments or any questions on this resolution? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
66-24, modified quorum for North Chautauqua County Water District Board in the event of a conflict of interest.
Are there any questions or comments on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
67-24, authorize agreements with towns, cities, and villages for snow removal and ice control.
Any discussion, any comments on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
68-24, authorize agreement for use of space for civil service examinations.
Any questions or comments on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
69-24, authorize agreement for advance payment for NYS DOT bridge project.
Any comments or questions on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
70-24, establishing naming policy for county-funded industrial and business parks.
Are there any comments or questions on the resolution? Legislator Wilfong.
Mr. Chairman, could I have that resolution read aloud?
You may. One moment while the clerk finds that in our stack.
I could do it. I've got it right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right. Resolution number 70-24, establishing naming policy for county-funded industrial and business parks by Administrative Services Committee at the request of County Executive Paul M. Wendell Jr. Whereas residents of Chautauqua County have a long history of service in the armed forces of the United States, and whereas the Chautauqua County Legislature finds it's imperative to remember the heroism and sacrifice of our veterans who have fallen in the line of duty, and whereas the county pursues an economic development strategy that includes finding, funding, and developing industrial and business parks to attract private enterprise, therefore, be it resolved, the county legislature establishes a policy of naming such economic development areas for fallen members of the armed forces with a primary emphasis on recognizing and memorializing those who were Chautauqua County residents, enlisted or non-commissioned officers, and who died in combat.
You're welcome.
I'd just like to thank Patrick Slagle, and the county executive for hearing me out on this venture, and I certainly do appreciate it, as I'm sure all the veterans in Chautauqua County do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion on the resolution? Legislator, I'm going to go with Legislator Larson. I thought I saw another hand go up, sorry.
I'm more concerned about opening up industrial and commercial parks in Chautauqua County and worry about naming them later. Naming anything for anyone that gives their life in service of the country is a fine idea. So I'll vote for it, but it occurs to me, what is the logic of excluding, God forbid, Sheriff Quattrone is here this evening. If one of his deputies is killed in the line of duty, we can't name a 60-acre industrial park after our own county sheriff killed in the line of duty, sheriff's deputy. God forbid a Department of Public Facilities worker is killed in the line of serving our county. In this resolution, we'd be excluded from naming anything in an industrial park, commercial park, or part of it after a county worker who was killed, maybe even working on the project. So I appreciate recognizing veterans. My father was a World War II veteran in Europe. My father-in-law was a World War II medic in Europe. Other than the fact that veterans vote, I'm not fully sure why this resolution, instead of giving a priority to naming veterans, why it excludes a county sheriff's deputy dying in the line of duty, having that name put on the county project. I'll vote for this, but the logic of it excluding all these other possible folks that die in our service escapes me. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Legislator Harmon.
Yeah,
it's been a long night.
I just have a question. I know I have a seat on the IDE board, and I guess my question would be, we are working on some current projects now that really have a name, and I know that that we're moving forward with these. Would this resolution change what we're doing going forward? Maybe a question for Mr. Geis. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, with the Ripley Industrial Park, we've been naming it Ripley Industrial Park, and I suppose it could be problematic. Hadn't really thought about it a lot, but the fact that Ripley has skin in the game, and that's what we've been calling it, and that's what we've been calling it with the state. It could be, the other thing that for me is like, who decides who that should be? Is there a process that's been established to determine, well, who makes that call about whether it's this family's child or this family's child or this person's husband or wife, you know, that's what concerns me. And then having hard feelings based on that.
Thanks, Mark. That's my concern as well.
Thank you. Legislator Wilfong.
The intent of this was to actually have the home community be able to bring someone's name forward that had passed away during active combat operations. So at this particular time, the village of Ripley, I would believe, would have that opportunity. And to address the thing about a worker that would meet a tragic accident here, whether it be a sheriff or it would be a worker, a soldier leads a different life. The soldier is sent different places. Those workers probably live nearby, they have their family, where soldiers are sent all over the world, and sometimes to hostile environments for sure. So that was the basis of the resolution, is to make sure that those people were recognized wherever they fell, whether they fell in this country or a foreign country. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments on the resolution? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Resolution is carried.
Okay. 71-24, amend senior real property tax exemption.
Any comments, any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
72-24, authorize acceptance of criminal justice discovery and bail reform funding.
Any comments or questions on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
73-24, authorize execution of Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation Impact Grant.
Any questions, comments on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
74-24, purchase of 2002 Ford ambulance from Kyantone Independent Fire Department.
Are there any comments or any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
75-24, authorize lease agreement with the Village of Mayville.
Any questions, any comments on the resolution? Legislator Proctor.
I just want to commend the Sheriff Quattrone and the Mayville Village Mayor Rick Seiper on coming to an agreement. This has been a problem in Mayville for a long time, and I think the sheriff's plan is a good one, and I hope it works. And I also want to commend him for his efforts in decreasing the recidivism of prisoners coming back, and all of his efforts in that regard.
Thank you. Well said. Any other comments, discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
76-24, authorize execution of NYS Office of Homeland Security statewide interoperable communications grant, SICG program, FY23.
Any questions or comments on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
77-24, authorize execution of NYS Office of Homeland Security Public Safety Answering Point, PSAP grant, FY23.
Any comments, any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
78-24, authorize federal and state aid applications for the Chautauqua County Dunkirk Airport 5-year Capital Improvement Plan, ACIP, for FY 2024 through 2028.
Are there any comments or questions on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? We have 1 nay.
Okay.
The resolution is carried.
79-24, SEQRA determination and lead agency designation for the obstruction mitigation and easement acquisition project at Chautauqua County Airport, Jamestown, JHW.
Any comments, any questions on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 1 nay. The resolution is carried.
80-24, authorize federal and state aid applications for the Chautauqua County Jamestown Airport 5-year Capital Improvement Plan, ACIP, for FY 2024 through 2028.
Are there any comments or discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? 1 nay. The resolution is adopted.
81-24, approve corrective action plan, CAP, for submission to Office of the State Comptroller, OSC.
Are there any comments or any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
82-24, authorizing purchase of CCIDA bonds.
Are there any comments or any discussion on the resolution? Legislator Johnson.
Mr. Chairman, in committee discussions, we, in this proposal, there's an item 3 where the county executive is directed to negotiate favorable terms for the county. And we received a verbal commitment that the county would receive a mortgage against the property should the repayment not be made. And I would like to hear what the county IDA has to say on that, and if, from our county attorney, if we need to have that in writing to make it enforceable.
Mark, would you like to address that?
Yeah, so it's gonna be 146 acres. We would pledge up that land as collateral. I would estimate that it would have a value of a minimum of $10 million. We would pledge that land up when it's all, with all the improvements, the road, the water, sewer, etc. And in terms of how that works, Rich, you want to talk to that?
When the county would buy the IDA bond, we would put up the collateral, there would be a mortgage taken by the county would have the mortgage on the property, should we default on the repayment, which is highly unlikely since it's a reimbursable grant from the state, but if we did, the property would then be subject to the mortgage and the county could foreclose, sell it, and redeem their money. Pretty simple.
So that language would be in the word?
Yes.
I hate to turn over a can of worms. That is not gonna cause you a problem with some other lender on that project somewhere?
This is the only lender at the time. The rest is grant money, IDA money, county capital project money, and ARPA funding. So, and this money again is just a bridge loan to cover the grant from the state. So this would be the only money that's borrowed from the project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions on the resolution? Hearing none, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony. Mr. Bankowski. Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Gustafson. Mr. Harmon. Mr. Heiser. Mr. Johnson. Mr. Landy. Mr. Larson. Mr. Nelson. Mr. Nebel. Ms. Parker. Mr. Pavlock. Mr. Penhollow. Mr. Proctor. Mr. Scudder. Ms. Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong. Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
There are 19 yes votes. The resolution is adopted. (83-24) Setting salary for law graduate trainee.
Are there any comments or questions on the resolution? Hearing none, all those in I'm sorry, would the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Anthony. Mr. Bankowski. Mr. Buchanan. Mrs. Gustafson. Mr. Harmon. Mr. Heiser.
Yes.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes.
Mr. Landy.
Yes.
Mr. Larson.
Yes.
Mr. Nelson.
Yes.
Mr. Neville.
Yes.
Ms. Parker.
Yes.
Mr. Pavlock.
Yes.
Mr. Penhallow.
Yes.
Mr. Proctor.
Yes.
Mr. Scudder.
Yes.
Ms. Vanstrom. Mr. Wilfong.
Yes.
Chairman Shagnon.
Yes.
There are 19 yes votes. The resolution is adopted. Okay. Motions. Motion A on the agenda, proclaiming March Women's History Month, has received the required amount of signatures to be brought to the floor.
Are there any comments, questions on the motion A, proclaiming March Women's History Month? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Motion B on the agenda, proclaiming March 18th through 22nd Agricultural Literacy Week in Chautauqua County, has received the required amount of signatures to be brought to the floor.
Are there any comments, questions on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried.
Motion C on the agenda, urging action by New York State legislators to advance on behalf of SUNY community colleges to increase funding to community colleges in the state budget, has received the required amount of signatures to be brought to the floor.
Are there any comments or questions on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. And that brings us to announcements. And I'm going to start off with the first one, that the legislators have probably found a bracelet on the desk. This is in support of Under Sheriff Telford. Any other announcements for the good of the order? Any other announcements? Hearing none, we will move to the second privilege of the floor. Members of the public may comment on any subject. A member of the legislature may speak on any subject. Individual comments are limited to 3 minutes, and comments representing a group shall be limited to 5 minutes. Please introduce yourself.
I'm Roger Harrower from 321 Palmer Street in Jamestown, New York. I have a statement for you. In 1 Timothy 2, 1 through 4, we are told, first of all, then I urge that supplication, prayers, intercessions, and thanksgivings be made for all people, for kings and all who are in high positions, that we may lead a peaceful and quiet life, godly and dignified in every way. This is good and is pleasing in the sight of God our Savior, who desires all people to be saved and come to the knowledge of the truth. You are some of these high positions and have significant influence on the moral culture of our people. Without an unchangeable moral culture, I believe we will not continue to exist as a nation. That code is set by the leadership, which is you. At Lakewood Baptist Church, we have taken this call to prayer seriously and placed the names of elected officials on cards for whom we have information. Some of you are very camera shy, by the way. On cards so that our people can be reminded to pray for you. We are praying for your integrity, honesty, and wisdom. If you wish to be added to our prayer effort, I can give you some contact information. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the second privilege of the floor?
What do you want? Doug Champ, 225 Bowen Street. Being it's Literary Week, I'm going to read something, and hopefully you all would know where it's come from, but it's very relevant because I'm going to add on to that a little bit on the situation that was talked about in the paper recently by a legislator, and it's important that people comment. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. It was the age of wisdom, it was the age of foolishness. It was the epoch of belief. It was the epoch of incredulity. It was the season of light. It was the season of darkness. It was the spirit of hope. It was the winter of despair. We had everything before us. We had nothing before us. We were all going directly to heaven. We were all going exactly the other way. In short, the period was so far like the present period, that some of the noisiest authorities insisted on it being received for good or for evil in the superlative degree of comparison only. You all should know where that came from. Charles Dickens' Tale of Two Cities, 1858. What I'm upset about is this article that Fred Larson put in the paper about where is the bottom. Where is the bottom? I can't believe that we have this communication in the paper coming from a county legislator. We're not in the bottom. This county is trying to rise. I really believe the leadership that we've had has created an opportunity for us. What really irritated me, I'm a veteran. I'm a veteran who has seen a lot of stuff. My whole family were veterans. So I can't understand why there's a problem with places being named after fallen heroes. In addition to that, Legislator Larson references cancer as being equivalent to economic decline. Okay? Why is that such an analogy? My wife died of cancer when she was 42. I go on a pilgrimage every 3 months to Roswell. Agent Orange affected a lot of guys that I was with. So how can we equate that of being economically a viable point of decline? In addition, the last Republican governor was 2006. So the county and the state are combined with an analysis on where have we gone in this county and this state. I believe that what we've had is abandonment of Western New York. You can cite metrics, you can cite places that have failed, but a communication from a legislator about where is the bottom doesn't do us any good at all.
Doug, you've exceeded your 3 minutes.
So I guess I asked all you legislators, do you think we've reached the bottom?
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Nicole Kretz. I work for Child Protection. All this talk about money, I see it fitting to speak on behalf of the Division of Child Protection. New York State says a manageable caseload is about 15 cases per CPS worker. Many of our staff have caseloads in the high teens, even the 20s. Presently, I'm a 35-an-hour week employee. So we've been asking for 40-hour work week for over a year. It never seems to be something the budget can allow. Many times our staff are working 40 hours and can't get caught up due to low staffing and high vacancies, inability to retain workers, the amount of cases per worker, and the high needs for the families we work with. Although many of us work the 40 hours, we don't get the accruals that go with it. So we're not afforded the compensatory vacation or sick time that goes along with it. So please remember this when we present a request for a grade reallocation in the near future and advocate for our commissioner to immediately put in a 40-hour work week for our workers. Our work directly affects the safety of children and families within our community. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for what you do. Next.
Jim Quattrone, Chautauqua County Sheriff, Jamestown, New York. So I think I have 20 minutes because I have 4 topics. First of all, I would like to thank the legislature for volunteering each one of you, 19, to go read during Agricultural Literacy Week.
I'm signed up.
All right, perfect. I think you would enjoy it, so I just wanted to say that. But in reality, I also want to thank Legislator Proctor for bringing up the lease with Mayville, and that's going to be used for a reentry hub. But thank the village and the residents of the village who came out in force at our first meeting and shared some of their concerns, and then the mayor was willing to work with us to make sure we have that. The raise, there was a little bit of discussion on that. I thank the commission for doing that. Quite honestly, I never really track how much I make. I have a wonderful wife who is a great budget person. I rely on budget people. She tells me how much I'm allowed to spend. She has made it possible so I don't have to necessarily worry about what my salary is. I don't know if I really want to thank you for voting that in, because technically I'm not getting a raise other than, I mean, it is the CPI I had to look at that it was. I do get the CPI and I'm appreciative of that. But this raise is for the next sheriff coming in. I don't know yet if I'm going to be running for sheriff. I'm not saying I'm not going to, but I want to say that it's for the next one coming in. What's important to know is there's 7 police agencies other than the sheriff's office in Chautauqua County. That's including the state police. There's 2 that are paid a little less than the sheriff. The other 5 make considerably more than what the sheriff makes. Again, that's not a complaint. As Mr. Larson has mentioned, I knew what I was, well, I kind of knew what I was making when I came into office. So I'm not going to complain about that. Hopefully, what this will do is bring qualified candidates into the position or to run for the office, and we want to continue to do that. Lastly, there was the Post-Journal did run an article on my trip to the border. I spent a couple days down in Arizona last week to visit the border to see firsthand. I've heard for many years the issues at the border based on Fox News, CNN, and whatever other news that has whatever slant that they're going to put on that. And I felt that it was important for me to go down and see, because we do have people crossing our northern border. We have had arrests made in Chautauqua County as a result of people crossing the northern border. These aren't the people, when we think about the people crossing the border, not everyone is a criminal. I'm talking about the criminals that are crossing the border. There's many people who are crossing the border according to what the policies are, and we can't hold that against them. So, but my concern is those who are crossing with bad intentions. And it's not the drug smuggling that we're concerned, it's the people smuggling and seeing lives that are lost. So I just wanted to share. I'm more than happy. I'm still kind of compiling all my thoughts. I brought a camera with me so I could document it visually, and I was taking too many notes. I kind of forgot to take pictures. So I got a few pictures, but not a lot. But be more than happy to talk to the legislative body to share some of the information that we gathered. Sheriff Daniels, who's the sheriff in Cochise County, has been dealing with this for his whole career, and we had the opportunity to not only talk with his officers, but to talk with residents of the county at several town hall meetings to get their take on it. Unfortunately, we didn't talk to any Border Patrol officers because there were none to be seen in a 30 to 40 mile stretch of the highway that we were on, because they were tied up processing individuals who were crossing the border instead of being on the border itself. So just wanted to share that because I know there were some people who were concerned about me making that visit. So thank you.
Thank you. And you didn't go 20 minutes, but thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the second privilege of the floor? Legislator Wolfong.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to take a moment to discuss a newspaper clipping from the Post-Journal that was given to me by constituents in reference to the proposed pay increases for the elected officials that was debated here tonight. In the clipping, reference was made to the makeup of the salary commission between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. The commission was made up of volunteers who were asked to serve and to try to provide this legislature with some guidelines on how to proceed going forward with these delicate proceedings. My exception with the paper calling out individuals that have pensions for Chautauqua County. I don't believe the Post-Journal has the right to bring someone's personal matters into the newspaper because the Post-Journal feels their experiences would impact their views for salary increases for elected officials, which is against the viewpoint of the Post-Journal. What does it matter where people work in their past life? If they work for the county, they deserve their pensions. These commission members are volunteers, and they should be treated with the same dignity and respect anyone would be when they sacrifice their time volunteering for their community. I believe that, once again, the Post-Journal has overstepped its authority, and this body needs to find another way to put information out to the public. We have WRFA, WJTN, and many other online news providers that would be a good place to start. Thank you.
Thank you. Legislator Larson.
Mr. Chairman, 40 years ago, I was an adjunct faculty at JCC, and I had a very bright young man in a law course I taught. His name was Jim Quattrone. And I want to commend him as sheriff, how innovative he has been in many ways. And when my time as city drug court judge, I may have said this to you before, but the work of folks at the jail with people with chemical dependency, alcoholism, whatever, is terrific. And to be perfectly clear, whatever, if Sheriff Quattrone runs for re-election and wins, whatever the salary is that particular year or 2 or 3 or 4 year term, I know he will have earned it and deserves it, and I commend him. I wish all of my students had turned out as successful as Jim Quattrone, but it's kind of fun to have known him since he was a teenager. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other privilege of the floor? Hearing none, I'm looking for a motion. Legislator Bankowski. And Legislator Gustafson. And all in favor, and we're adjourned.